working, trying to get a job for, say, for example, the wrestling business or even the entertainment business, which eventually you ended up becoming the boss of many people that, gave you the platform. So like, was that always the goal for you to always say, okay, I'm going to use this thing of this knowledge, because I've always believed knowledge is power in anything you do. Mm-hmm. Do you believe that the fact of your worth ethic and your drive and your ability to want more is what put you in the position to eventually become the guy that ended up becoming the president of WCW?
Yes. I mean, I never subscribed. When I went to high school, I only showed up. I can't believe I graduated, actually, because I hardly ever went. Mm-hmm. And I had no desire to go to college.
Neither
and it just didn't work for me. And I only showed up when I say I'm surprised I even graduated. I did well in certain classes that I was interested in. Like, ironically, I did really well in physics. Mm-hmm. I did well in foreign languages. I did well in history because those things interested me. But everything else I sucked at because they didn't interest me. Mm-hmm. And I knew that early on, and I knew that I would never go to college. So for me, the normal path and the path that everybody, prescribed for you when you're young, I knew right off the bat that wasn't going to work for me. I knew I had to hustle. Mm-hmm. But I think what got me to the opportunity that I had at Turner Broadcasting and WCW was really that entrepreneurial instinct. Once I was in the wrestling business, and I came in as a third string announcer, and I was the backup to the backup to the backup. I had the lowest level, job you could probably have on camera. But I was smart enough to see opportunity. I was smart enough to just start paying attention to things that I thought, boy, if they did it this way, it would be a lot better. Mm-hmm. Or if we tried this, that would be way more interesting. So when the opportunity became a reality, when Bill Shaw, who was then the vice president at Turner Broadcasting, in charge of human resources, decided, okay, we're going to bring somebody in that's got a fresh approach, that isn't, a wrestling guy, so to speak. I had this long list of things I thought, well, this shit would work, man, if you just give me a shot. And I pitched it. I went back to my, door-to-door salesman thing. I went back to when I was a kid, selling newspapers. Mm-hmm. I just pitched. I just sold. And evidently I did a decent enough job that I ended up getting the opportunity. And from there, it was just building, it was like, hey, we want to, this company is this big right now. Mm-hmm. We want to make it this big. Mm-hmm. How do we do that? And that's where the entrepreneurial, I think, instinct kind of kicked in, along with, by the time I got that opportunity, I had been in the wrestling business for 6 or 7 years. So I had a pretty good idea. I'd done a lot of the grunt work. When I first got hired in the AWA, I was a very low-level position. I was basically a salesman. I sold television syndication. I tried to convince local television stations to carry the AWA program. Pretty low level, but I learned. And because of my personality, on my own time, I learned production. I grew up, again, in the 60s, television was like a big deal. It was, your family, got together and watched television every night. And it was still kind of a magic thing to me. And I said, well, I got to figure out how this shit works. How do they get those faces and that voice and that music on that little box? So while I had a job at AWA and my job was sales and syndication, in my off time, I was basically an intern on the production side of things because I wanted to learn how television worked. And once I got a little bit familiar with the basics of production, I said, okay, I want to learn how to promote a live event. And I started promoting small live events. So over the course of 4, 5, 6 years, I started out with sales and syndication, which taught me a lot about the television industry, the business side of the television industry. I learned about basic production. I learned about live event promotion. I ended up being on camera as a talent, and that was sheer coincidence. I was just in the right place at the right time, and I was the only person in the building